Hello and welcome to the first Spark Social Justice online session. We're really glad that you could have a look and join us today. Spark Social Justice is a project that sits within the Leeds Justice and Peace Commission in the Leeds Diocese, and it is a project for 16 to 30-year-olds in the Leeds Diocese, and it exists to raise awareness about really pertinent and important social justice issues. So we've been working with schools and Leeds Trinity University since last September, delivering face-to-face sessions. And now we are really pleased to say that we are able to move to an online format. And so over the next month or a couple of months, we are going to be developing and delivering a series of sessions that we hope that you will find really useful, really valuable, really inspirational, and that will help you feel connected to the project. And so a big welcome back to those of you who are familiar with us and who have worked with us so far, and a very big welcome as well if you have just joined us for the first time. So today's first Spark Social Justice session is going to be about the theme of youth leadership. So we're going to be looking at what makes a good leader, what makes a strong leader, and we're going to be talking about inspirational young people who have really done incredible things and have felt inspired to take positive action also. So I'm really pleased this morning to be joined by Marc Besford, who is National President of the Young Christian Workers. And I'm really pleased to be joined as well by Ben Sinclair. And Ben is... Morning, Ben. Ben is the National Secretary for Young Christian Workers, and Ben is also a seminarian at the Diocese of Hexham and Newcastle, and he's also studying at the Royal English College in Spain, but at the moment he's come back home, haven't you, Ben?
I have, yeah.
So continuing your studying, but from afar right now, so we're really happy that you could both join us. So Ben, we're going to come to you a little bit later on, but what I thought we could do is start with you, if that's okay, Marc.
Yeah,
and it would be really fantastic if you felt that you could share with us something about your own journey, particularly, you know, as a young person. When did you first become really interested and passionate about social justice issues? And how did that inform your journey and to get to where you are now, if that's all right?
Yeah, no problem. So yeah, my journey is quite actually a bumpy one, really. It wasn't never on the same path. It was always different things happening all the time. So I went to college after school only because really because we didn't know what to do. All my friends went and were like, well, what do we do? So after college, really, I started on an apprenticeships and I got going in through there. But I also got really involved in the church at that time, and heavily involved in the parish and wanting to set up different things and do different things. Then it got to a point where I really wanted to set up a youth group to look at social justice issues. And the top and bottom of it really was the first meeting. We had a group of adults, a table full of adults, and then right at the back a table full of young people. And it was always the adults saying they wanted to, the young people want this, young people want that. But then no one really got round to asking the young people directly. So I was thought, this is not on. So really we dedicated a full youth group with just young people who would be able to share their own experiences and really their own passions as well for something they can get really involved in. So I finally found on the website the Young Christian Workers, the YCW. So I invited them down, and what really struck me with them was they had this certain method called See, Judge and Act. So the C part was obviously looking at the young person personally, looking at their story, their reality, judging it based on the Gospels, so i.e. what would Jesus do? And then being formed by the reality and faith, taking that authentic Christian action and really inspiring and helping the community and the world around us. And then for me personally, I ended up doing some voluntary work for the Young Christian Workers. So I was traveling from home, from Teesside to Manchester for meetings. And then a job opportunity arose. I took the job, and never looked back since. And then going around really the country looking at different what young people can do, and the inspiration that young people can really achieve as well. And then last year, July, at the last National Council, I was voted in as the national president.
That's fantastic, and a really amazing example of when young people are really given a voice and feel that their voice is actually heard, and they're encouraged to share their ideas, their thinking, their passions,
Absolutely.
what they care about. Like, that's incredible. Just when that opportunity arises, the amazing things that can happen as a result of that. And what you said about, you know, the young people were there, they were present, they were physically there, but actually they weren't really connected or feeling heard.
I mean, a couple of examples. I mean, I'll give a few later on, but one particular example for my own parish before I moved into the role for the YSW was they looked at the around them in the community. They sat down and was like, right, what can we actually do to make a difference? So they identified the major use of and the major need of the food bank in where I was living, and they did some of their own research. They looked at it, who uses the food bank, what's there for, and they were really astonished to find it wasn't sort of like the stigma behind people who are on benefits. It was actually families who couldn't afford to feed their own family towards the end of the month, that kind of thing. So what they did, they judged it based on Matthew's gospel. So if I was hungry, you give me something to eat. If I was thirsty, you give me something to drink. And these young people thought that gospel passage spoke to them and really inspired them to do something, at least help. So what they did was they spoke at all the masses over the weekend. I think there was 4 at the time. And what they did was then they collected tins of food, they collected toiletries, and they took it down, as young people, took it down to the food bank. But they didn't just stop there. They actually stayed for an hour and a half, packing food parcels, learning what not to put in or what things can go in. The process, the food bank, they found that they have access to internet at food banks where they can look for jobs, etc. And then, so that was their see, judge and act method, really, putting young people first, and really young people taking the lead and inspiring others, really.
And it's amazing as well how quickly that was able to happen. So when you've got a group of young people, because part of this project is encouraging the young people to set up their own social justice action group. So when you've got a cohort of young people who all feel the same way, that's a really good example of how quickly you can take action on something that, you know, and that it can have such an amazing positive impact as well, and that anything's possible. Because I think some young people on this project have sort of said, but we don't know where to start, you know, but what can we do? And what you've just provided is a really, you know, clear, concrete example of the steps that you can take as a young person with others to take that action. So that's amazing. Thank you, Marc. And Ben, we were going to come to you a little bit later after Marc shared some slides, but I kind of feel that we might switch things around because it feels actually now like a good time to bring you into the conversation. So Ben, would it be all right for you as well just to share with us a little bit about yourself, your own journey as well, and any work that you've been involved with or a project that young people have really taken action before we hear more from Marc, if that's okay?
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. I'm from the same parish over in Billingham in the northeast of England as Marc's from. So again, it's quite a similar story to him, really, in terms of I've been quite involved in the parish as in like a Eucharistic minister and altar server, so like taking those parish roles. But it wasn't until Marc really set the YCW up as a group in Billingham that I've had the opportunity to go out and actually do some social justice and look at the wider community rather than just the parish in general, really. So I think one of the things I've noticed is that growing up in Teesside, you have quite a lot of social injustice. So there's a big difference between people who are quite wealthy and who are fairly well off, but then you've got the other scale. On the other scale, you've got people who are really struggling to live really to the basic necessities.
Yeah.
So looking at, I was part of the group who went to the food bank, and I saw the similar things to Marc really. There's families were coming in, people who had full-time jobs but were just not able to afford to feed the families. So it sort of takes away some of the stereotypes which definitely some of the media like to produce about who uses food banks, and the people who rely on them. So really allowing me to use the YCB method of Seadridge and ACT has allowed me to sort of widen my viewpoint on social justice. And another thing that I realised as well is how much of an impact the sort of unemployment can have on the whole area really, because just about 20 minutes south of me there was a massive steelworks which you might have heard closed down in 2015, at Redcar, and that had a massive impact on the whole economy and the unemployment of the area. So from that you've got an awful lot of social injustice and a massive increase of poverty and people who can no longer afford to live like they used to, and it just shows how quickly people's lives can change around, and it just really resonates with me how easy it is for you to be living fairly well one day and the next your whole world could be turned upside down.
I think, and absolutely, and in the sessions that we've had so far, that's something that myself and the other facilitators have definitely spoken about with the young people, is that, you know, one day everything's okay and literally the next day, for whatever reason, everything can change. And we talk a lot about having a safety net. What does a safety net mean, and what do you need in your life to keep safe? And what happens when that's taken away from you very, very suddenly and it's out of your control? So quite a lot of the young people we visited so far have been really surprised when they find out that that can actually happen. And also very surprised to find out, like you'd said, Ben, that, you know, you live in a certain community, but you're not always aware of what else goes on in that community and how much other people are actually suffering. So raising awareness about that is really, really important. And like you say, visiting places and directly offering help is an incredible thing to do as a young person as well, that you have both described. Thank you for that. What I'd like to do now, if it's okay, because we've talked a lot about, you know, and obviously you've both worked with a lot of young people and really inspired them to take action. So what I think would be really, really helpful is for the young people watching this to have a look at some strategies that young Christian workers have, particularly that See, Judge, Act structure, and those steps I think are just, you know, really important to look at as well. But also I think, Marc, you're going to share with us as well some examples of other young people who have demonstrated really positive leadership in regards to social justice issues. So if you wouldn't mind, Marc, just sharing some slides with us now and kind of talking us through those, and the young Christian workers approach, that would be really fantastic.
Yeah, sure, no problem. Hopefully you can all see that.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem. So for this particular presentation, we're going to try and look at who the leaders of today's world is. We've got some pictures for you to name for different leaders, and then maybe on the back of some examples as well, look at is there anyone else you can think of that may have changed your opinion on who actually is a leader. So and all this is, like I said, is trying to inspire young people to be the difference, as the title says there. So once that spark ignites, it's really difficult to actually put out. And I've met so many inspirational young people who that spark is still burning brightly over the period of so many years as well. So first of all, what we're going to look at is basically a definition of a leader. What is a leader? So all we want you to do is write down or just think of some answers to these questions. So for number one is who are the leaders in today's society? How did these people become leaders? And what are the qualities, gifts, and talents that you would usually associate with a leader? So for this particular exercise, it was really for you to think about, like say, who are today's leaders? How did they become them? And what do you think the gifts and talents are for that particular role or for that person? Are we ready to move on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So everyone's welcome to, you can have a look at the screen, or while we're going through these slides, as Marc says, you're very welcome to jot down some notes as well in responses to these questions, or you can watch it again at a later date, and just for now you can have a think about what your responses might be to some of these questions.
So here are 7 different pictures of the leaders. I was wondering if you can go from 1 to 7 and name each one. I'll give you a few moments to just have a look at the pictures and see if you can name as many as you can, and then I'll go through who they are.
They're all definitely very different types of leaders, aren't they?
Yeah.
I was going to say you could definitely tell the different range of people who you would associate as leaders. Definitely.
Good leaders, yeah, yeah.
But they're all leaders in the same boat.
Some might be better leaders than others.
Indeed. So I hope you've had enough time. I'm sure you can pause the video if you need a little bit longer. So obviously number 1 is Sir Winston Churchill. Number 2 is Pope Francis. Number 3 is Greta. Number 4 is Malala. And I'm sure you can guess number 5, but number 5 is Darth Vader. Number 6 is Bishop Marcus. And I'm sure you know who he is. And number 7 is Donald Trump. Looks like my hair after being cut after lockdown.
Yeah. Oh, it's amazing. I think looking at these images as well, because sometimes people think, oh, but to be a leader, you've got to be, there's this idea of someone who's a leader of being very physically strong and tall, or, and that's not always the way. That sometimes the best leaders are those that are very quiet, as in quiet, calm, focused, rational, and reach out to people, and in stature are quite, are not big and loud, but actually have a quiet calm about them that draws people near to them. Because ultimately, Marc, would you say that a good leader is someone who encourages people to come closer?
Absolutely, I agree.
So they can help, and not push people away. So yeah, it's really interesting lineup.
I mean, for example, with Greta and Malala, there's 2 examples of 2 inspirational young people who have got that spark, got that flame, and very passionate about their subjects. Obviously, with Greta with the environmental, and also Malala with educating young women. But then you've got the likes of Pope Francis, who obviously is an inspiration of love and compassion, and very pastoral, who knows people and how to bring them together. Obviously, with Bishop Marcus, you've got him as the chief shepherd of the Leeds diocese. Not sure about Donald Trump or Darth Vader, but obviously with Churchill as well. I mean, he had a humongous task of trying to defend, obviously, our country against oppression. So all these form different traits and qualities of a leader. But I'm just going to give you another example. I wonder if you know who this might be as a young leader as well.
No.
No.
I wonder if anyone watching knows.
Oh, Ben, maybe?
I'll try not to give it away.
Well, that was a big hint, saying it was she's from the northeast at least.
Okay.
You may recognise her after this picture.
Oh. Do you want to tell us a little bit about?
Yeah. So hopefully,
Marc.
well done to those who may have got who she is, but this picture is of a young woman in Gateshead up in Newcastle. Her name is Katie Cutler, and she raised, she saw the story. The gentleman next to her is called Alan Barnes, and what happened, he actually got mugged and beaten up, everything stolen when he was out shopping, incredible injustice. So when Katie heard about this, she actually set up a crowdfunding page, and actually, I think from my knowledge, she raised approximately the round total of £330,000 for him. Sorry.
Oh wow!
And so this is all about a ordinary young person who basically saw an injustice and really wanted to do something about it. I think she only wanted to raise a couple of £100, but like ultimately 330,000 she raised for him. So this is one example of an inspiring young person, and I'm sure you could be able to Google her at a later date as well to find out more about her story as well.
Yeah, and I think this example just shows that you don't have to be the leader of the church or leader of a country to be able to be a leader. It can just, but one of the things that Katie had with the likes of Pope Francis and Sir Winston Churchill is that she wasn't afraid to stand up for what she believed in, and she had that confidence to go out and really say what she thought and just speak up for the injustice that Alan was faced with. So I think that just shows the same leadership qualities, even though she's just a normal young person in today's society.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely. Who's done extraordinary things and inspired others as well. So by her action, goodness knows how many more people have become aware of this through her individual action. So sometimes, you might think, but I'm just one person. How can I make a difference? I can't do anything. And this is a prime example of, yes, you can. You can really instigate positive change. And that's an incredible example of amazing youth leadership there. Incredible.
So now moving on, and after looking at different examples and maybe examples that you've thought about after the first question, can you think of any other examples of people inspiring others to make a difference in either personally or in people's lives, or even in the community as well? And again, do you know any others, friends, family, people in the community who have led the lives that support people and inspiring others as well?
I'm sure coming out of the terrible situation that we're facing today, you're seeing a lot more on the news about of young people and older people who are trying to make a difference in and improving people's lives and standing up for social justice. Because people are obviously struggling a lot these days with, if you think about loneliness and people not being able to go to work or live their lives, and just people have really acknowledged that and helped them out and given them a huge support. So yeah, like this is a good example for you to try and think of why you're seeing that in your society.
I mean, I think you're right there, Ben. With the current situation, we're seeing quite a lot of heroes and a lot of people, for example, like the NHS, inspiring and caring, and the care workers as well.
Mm-hmm.
So this is Cardinal Joseph Cardine. He was the founder of the Young Christian Workers back in 1925, and he really took to the fact that young people can really be the difference and be leaders of their own life and the lives of others. So he was saying a young leader is a friend and companion to others, not someone giving orders. They are not a stranger, but someone who wants to share the same difficulties.
Mm.
And also, young people, there must be leaders in their own home with their parents, brothers and sisters, at their places of work or study, and when they go to lunch, and when they speak to anyone. So really,
So
go on. Sorry. Go on.
No, please, no, go on, Marc. Yeah, absolutely.
So really, he's saying that young people really can be leaders and can be the difference, but they must start with the basics really first, starting in their own homes and then sharing that out within the community.
Yeah, and I think looking at this, you can see the real resemblance between what Cardinal Cardine's saying and what Pope Francis is doing at the minute, because he likes to use the term missionary disciples. And from that, you can see that you're not just a leader when you're at work or when you are in a youth group or in any other circumstance, but it's really when you're doing your normal day-to-day activities. So when you're at lunch or when you're having a chat with your friends, then that's when you can really be a leader in everyday society, rather than just having the bigger scale examples that we've talked about earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. This idea of being a leader is really, making the right decision at any point in your life and whatever you're doing, and making the decision that's right for you and right for others. That's a really important message, Ben, I think, as well, definitely. That idea, young people must be leaders in their homes, so they're leaders with everyone who's around them, and they're demonstrating that empathy at all times.
Absolutely.
Brilliant, really powerful message, I think, in that, definitely.
So here are some examples of young people taking action in their own communities and societies, really. So I'll just start up at the top. So this group is from Bury near Manchester, and this group actually got a highly commended a Million Minutes Award, a national award, for their environmental project that they did. So they made something called the Buckingham Palace Hotel. So they got sort of like pallets and logs and built up a nice little like a hotel really for all the creepy crawlies and all the bugs that are around.
Amazing.
Hedgehogs, things like that, they're around. But they also did a poppy field for Remembrance Sunday, based on using plastic bottles and the plastic bottle lids as well as the stem for the poppy.
Oh,
So,
wow, how creative.
Wonderful.
They also actually put on afternoon tea for all the young carers, because in Bury there is quite a lot of young carers looking after parents or family, and they don't really get a break. So they linked in with the St. Vincent de Paul Society, and they actually approached the SVP to do this. So they put on afternoon tea for these young carers while the SVP looked after those who needed the care. So again, these are 12 to 13-year-olds, but a lot of inspiration and really wanting to do good in society. The next one, we've got the Father John, who's actually our national chaplain with the little cap on. Obviously Ben and Sean and a lad called Callum. That was at an event that I organised as the European chair of the Young Christian Workers in Porto, and that was a 4-day event where we had 150 young people across Europe come together to share their own reality and really trying to make a difference from ourselves and what our state of play is like in England and Wales. We found out what it was like in Italy, in Spain, in France, Portugal, and it really is. Young people really feel the same as a lot of young people I meet with the YCW, and it was just a really, really good event where we got to exchange and share stories and build friendships as well all across Europe.
That's right. You could really tell that the challenges that we're facing in England are replicated all over Europe, really. So it was a good chance just for myself and for Callum and Mark and Sean to be able just to see that the challenges that we have are the same, and there's a real problem with social injustice in not just England and Wales, but in Europe as a continent.
Yeah. So the next one here, those little Christmas stockings. So this was by a new group in Oldham who wanted to do something for Christmas and wanted to do something for the Women's Refuge. So what they did was they collected items of clothing, food, and also toys for their children as well. And I think they took down around 150 stockings to the Women's Refuge during Christmas last Christmas. So they looked at something that they really wanted to do for women in need, really, and for their children, to make sure that their Christmas wasn't spoilt in any sense of the word as well. So that was, again, young people making a difference. This little group here, this is a new group in a school in Oldham, and they actually took a decision to look at the homelessness crisis in Manchester, and they actually went out in groups and spoke and got some really personal testimonies from people who were living on the streets, and they actually wanted to come back and they actually really supported a homeless charity called Cornerstone, which is a charity from the Caritas for the Diocese of Salford, and they really sort of raised awareness within school and within the community about the issues surrounding homelessness. This one here, as you can see, it's myself with someone I really don't recognise. So again, that was with Pope Francis, and this was my first time from being from Billingham and being from a socially deprived area to then literally shaking the hands of Pope Francis. It was truly inspirational for me, and really unforgettable moment, really, that I met the Holy Father, especially from where I came from. I would never ever in a million years think that I would ever meet His Holiness. So that was there again, just to say that was on for a conference, an international conference that I was partaking in on the digital age and the common good in the digital age, looking at how technology is affecting the common good. Is it actually a good thing? Is it bad? How can we do it? And I was really sort of like representing the young people there in an international level in Rome. But you had people who were there from NATO, you had people who were ambassadors to the Holy See, foreign ministers, and then there's me, who I have never went to uni. I got a level 4 apprenticeship in business admin, and I was there telling all these foreign ministers and ambassadors that, like, basically they're totally getting it wrong in a sense that technology can be used for good, but it also can be used for bad. And really, it's from the groups of young people that I go and visit that I can share that. So that I think they got a shock that, really, coming from as a young person, that, well, there's a lot more that you can do and you can do it, but we've got the voice to do it as young people.
Wonderful.
So that was actually the second time, I met Pope Francis. The other one was the year before, where I went to a conference on Laudato Si in Rome, in the Vatican, where we looked at environmental issues based on the encyclical Laudato Si. The one in the bottom left, that's a group of young people from a place called Sambach in Cheshire. So what they did, they initiated a project they want to do for a refugee family and rehousing a refugee family. So what they did was they raised £12,000 to do this community sponsorship scheme, and they actually have, out of that money, they redecorated a house, and they're renting a house for an Egyptian refugee family, so 2 children and a mother. So out of that 12,000, as well as the house and the rent, the bills, etc., they're providing support for the mother, so for English and maths lessons. So in order functional skills, so in order to get a job and to sustain herself and her family. And they've also integrated the children into the local primary school, I believe, buying uniform for them as well. So again, this project lasted over a year, but it was about young people really wanting to make a difference for people as well. You also had some problems as well. So all this doesn't necessarily go as maybe you want it, but for example, this group, they raised 8,000 initially, but then we're told because it was a nicer area, that they had to go up to 12,000. So they wrote to their MP complaining. Unfortunately, they had to raise the 12,000 to begin with, but they did it. And again, it's young people overcoming obstacles to make a difference to people's lives. This little picture here with the group OIT, that was taken from the United Nations headquarters in Geneva. And the guy with the white top, he works part-time for the Young Christian Workers. He's also a local councillor. Again, a young person being a local councillor as well. But he actually spoke at the event for the United Nations, for the International Labour Organization. And it was the first time that the international team were able to ever speak at this event. So really, it was quite a historic moment. But the others, as you can see, I'm not sure where mouse on. This young man, he was from Catalonia. He's called Danny. He obviously Aoibheann. This guy is Baranu, the international president, who we do have a good relationship with. The lady next to her, Monica, in the red, she's from Uganda. Heidi, who's the international treasurer, she's from the Philippines. And also Father Roman, he's the European chaplain and also the international chaplain, but he's also parish priest in Catalonia as well. So a very mixed, diverse thing, but again, this is like the international side of what we do as well. And lastly, this group here, Ramsbottom, they're called, up in Bury, they actually they do an awful lot of things really. They, as young people, wanted to raise awareness for Bury Red Door, which deals with homelessness. So what they did outside their parish church, they actually, as young people, dressed up as homeless people. So the parishioners didn't know who they were, so they covered the faces and everything. And what they did was watch all of old parishioners or parishioners go up into church, avoiding them, ignoring them. So then during Mass, they before Mass started, they went into church. They went into church and sat next to people. And apparently they said that you could see people sort of like ushering away, kind of away from them. So during the homily, they were like that until the homily. And the parish priest said, oh, well, can all the young people stand up? Obviously people who were homeless stood up, unveiled themselves. And apparently there was so many tears during that Mass of people sort of like, oh no, I can't believe we've just done that. They actually raised £500.
Oh, that's so powerful.
They actually raised £500 at that Mass because of people's
that's amazing
sympathy. And actually, although it was a really good thing, they were just, oh, I can't believe I've done that. So really, it was a very powerful message about homelessness, really. But in this particular picture, this was actually last Christmas. So they actually put on 80 meals for the lonely, people who were housebound or homeless. So they actually provided a Christmas Day lunch for them on Christmas Day. So they gave up their most of Christmas Day to do this, to provide 80 meals for people who were vulnerable, people who were lonely at Christmas. So they gave up actually the Christmas Eve as well because they had to set up for the next day. So again, that was another example of young people doing ordinary things. Well, sorry, ordinary young people doing extraordinary things, really.
Yeah, that is all of those stories are unbelievable. And as you say, you know, what Ben said as well earlier, that, you know, you don't have to be, you know, these are people that are in otherwise normal circumstances, but doing the most extraordinary things. They haven't been given power. They haven't been given anything. it's come from here, and it's come from a real, what we talk about, spark and care and passion and commitment, and also resilience. And there's a real sense that it's incredible what can be achieved as well when you work collectively with other people.
Especially especially when they share the same sort of like reality and they're going through. So, for example, with the State Judging Act, I could only listen to what a 17-year-old or an 18-year-old has gone through, because my reality when I was 17 or 18 would be totally different, is totally different to what people experience now. So what's about is about sharing that reality and actually doing something about it. And actually, as young people, we can actually be the voice to do it. A lot of people say, oh, young people want this, that, and the other, but actually a lot of people don't actually ask young people what they want. So it really gives a platform, a voice for young people to share, to discuss and act and do something incredibly amazing to help others.
Yeah, I think it's great because, like what you were saying earlier, Marc, is that quite a lot of people think they know what young people want, but actually the world moves along so quickly these days that actually what their experience was like as a young person is completely different now. So to really give the young people a chance to speak up for what they want is absolutely crucial. So I think it's a wonderful. All these stories are great examples of that.
And again, obviously, given more recent examples of obviously during this pandemic and COVID-19, a lot of groups that I've been working with, obviously we can't meet, but these groups, there's one in Preston who have been sort of visiting care homes from obviously outside. They sent cards to the residents who were obviously isolated and lonely. And also they made a banner thanking the staff as well in the care homes. In 2 care homes actually they did that for, and they also made a banner and put on the corner to thank the NHS as well for what they did right outside the hospital. So again, as young people taking an active role to try and support others. Another few groups have visited elderly parishioners as well, make sure that they're okay. I myself actually, because I've been in a predicament as well that I can't really do too much because of my work, I've actually signed up for the NHS Volunteers app. So again, it's myself, I thought as a young person, as a young leader and a Christian leader, it was my duty to try and help others who are isolated, who need food, who need essential medication dropping off to them. So I've been doing that as well. But there's, as a whole as well, not just within obviously the church or within a Christian element of it, there's a lot of inspirational young people who have really sort of like took a lead and thought, you know what, we can actually make a difference to help people in this pandemic as well. And again, that's all about leaders. As you were saying, it's not that they were given authority or anything like that. They basically took it on themselves, had that spark in the heart to actually wanting to help and be a difference. And that's all about, really. Honestly, it's about ordinary people doing extraordinary things.
Thank you, Marc.
Anyways.
And you've got young Christian workers have got some really fantastic resources, don't they?
Yeah,
are you able to share those with us at some
yeah, sure. There's just a couple more slides and basically looking at how we can so really, how can we be leaders? Looking at all that, looking at the examples, your earlier thoughts on the what a leader is, the gifts and the talents, to what maybe you now think what a leader actually is. So how we can be leaders. So is there anyone that you can think of right now who might need your help? How can you be a young leader, and how can you show and take responsibility for others through your own actions? I mean, this could be a friend at school or a family member or someone else you know, young or old, especially maybe during this current crisis as well. And how we can do that is this is about raising awareness or drawing people's attention to that particular situation and what they should be aware of. How might you show leadership? By informing others about an issue which concerns you or is important to you. And perhaps you could encourage others to help you solve a situation or a problem. And stand up. It really can be often difficult to change situations on our own. It's really important that as Christians we stand up for those who cannot speak out for themselves. So really, do you know anyone, a person or a group of people who were overlooked or silenced by others? Are there any local campaigns that you can get involved with where you can work voluntary or bring about change? And then really it's all about spending some time thinking about with yourself or with others how you can respond to that using the see, judge, act method and the help, tell it, stand it up. And as Cardinal Joseph Cardine said, he famously said, "Give me leaders and I will raise the world." So it's quite a powerful statement just to say really that you can be a leader and you can bring about change as young people. You do have a voice and you can actually use it. Also with Pope Francis as well, he said that World Youth Day as well, he said, keep walking, keep living the faith and sharing it. And do not forget that you're not the tomorrow, you're the now of God. So really he's saying you're not the church of tomorrow, as a lot of people have even said to me as well personally. They've said, oh yeah, young people, you can do this tomorrow, blah, blah, blah. No, you're there now and you can actually make a difference now. You can see the difference now.
That's right, and I think we've seen in all those stories just how true it is and how this statement from Cardinal Joseph Cardine is absolutely correct, and from those examples and the many other thousands of others which are going on today.
Absolutely. And also in terms of raising the world and changing the world, just by even, it could be, we talked about this in sessions, it might be something that to you is quite small. So it might be even, you know, just looking someone in the eyes and saying, hello, how are you today? Could mean the world to that person who may be feeling afraid or alone, and really just give them hope. And that might be quite, to us, a small action, but to someone else is monumental in terms of making them feel valued. So there's no such thing, when we talk about acts as well, you know, and acting now, there's no such thing as something that's small. It's everything you do that comes from your heart towards helping others is huge. It's a huge action, because sometimes young people might say, but that's not, I want to do something big, big, big. And it's like, no, everything is big, because everything has an impact, and you can change someone's world within themselves by an action. And I think that's really come across today. And it's come across as well. I think it's what's really important is that anyone can do this. There's no formula, you know, you don't have to be, you know, given power or authority. Each one of us can learn from this, and we can start to do this, and we can start to act, and we can start to respond and inspire others to do so as well. I think is a really key message of today. And there's real power in working collectively as well with your friends and with other people. So before I talk about the next session, Marc, I think what would be really helpful is, I'm sure there's lots of young people watching who would be really interested to see, you know, if there's any resources like further reading that they might be able to access. That would be really helpful.
Yeah, no problem. Can you say that now?
Yeah.
So obviously this is our website, ycwimpact.com, and there is under the resources, it's on downloads. We've got plenty of other resources, think tools for groups, how we can start a group. There's some really nice reflections. There's one on general election, about work, something that might be interesting for some people as well, value in life, our life resource. And there's a couple of Lenten ones as well. So all you do is just
and you've
click
got
on
one on politics as well. Sorry, Marc, I was just going to say that one's quite interesting, because what you talked about earlier, like writing to your MP.
Yeah.
You know, and kind of deciding to do that. You can, you know, everybody's human.
And we've also got one on the Living Wage Week as well, about the real living wage.
Fantastic. That's brilliant. And what's so we've got the website address at the top of the page. And also, this is going to really, really help everyone with the next session, because we're going to be talking to Tom Chibo about setting up a social justice action group. And all of these resources as well are fantastic for young people to reflect on, to read, to share, to consider, to think about if they want to take the next step and actually set up a group within their school or university setting. This is really, really useful. There's lots of amazing things on there. Thank you so much for all of that.
No problem.
And if any teachers are watching and they want to know more, please do get in touch with me, and I can, ask Marc and Ben as well for more resources that I can be able to share with you. So if there's anything you need, do get in touch and you can pass it on as well to your students. Is there anything else you'd like to say, Marc or Ben, just to finish off? Is there anything else that you want to, any last words that you want to say to anyone watching to just...
Well, I just want to say really that there's nothing out there that's impossible to achieve. If you really feel passionate about something, you can bring about change. How small, how big, it's irrelevant. It's really the fact that as young people, you do have a voice. You are listened to, or you can be listened to, and you can really take that youth leadership qualities that you have to really make a difference and be the difference in your community and in people's lives as well. But not to be deterred. Don't let anyone put you down, because really it matters. If it matters to you, it matters to someone as well. So yeah.
And I mean, I'd just like to offer a word of encouragement to everybody listening, really, that you do have the gifts and the talents to be able to make a difference in your life and those of the people around you as well. So don't be afraid, like Pope Francis said a couple of weeks ago, just have faith and just put your trust in that you can do it, and that you have the ability to be able to help those around you and create a more just society.
Wow, thank you so much for those very powerful words and advice and encouragement for all of the young people watching today. I can't thank you both enough for joining us today and sharing all of your wisdom, all of your experiences, and all the wonderful things that you've done and what you've inspired other young people to do. So thank you. I hope everyone watching has found today's session really, really valuable. As Marc says, keep going, keep feeling connected. And as Ben says, anything is powerful and change starts with you. And there's no such thing as a big action or a small action. Any action that comes from the heart, that you're passionate about, that is kind and caring is a big action. So just in regards to the next session, it's going to be in a couple of weeks' time, and it will focus on helping you think about setting up your own social justice action group, and what kind of positive action that you might want to take collectively as a group of young people. And that session will be led by Tom Chibo from Lead Citizens, and we really look forward to welcoming him then. Just to finish off as well from me, please do go to our Facebook page, Spark Social Justice, click like, and we share lots of really interesting posts on there and updates and videos that you might find really useful as well. So do, if you get the chance, go on there and have a look. So from Marc, from Ben, and from myself, thank you so much for watching. We hope you found today really valuable, and we look forward to seeing you again in a couple of weeks' time. Take care. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.